Good morning, all. This is Adrienne Giordano coming to you from my home, my home office. Thank you to Find a Way for letting me do a little author spotlight here to tell you about myself and my books. I am a USA Today bestselling author. I have over 40 romantic suspense and mystery books. I like to kind of genre hop a little bit. I find it fun. I am an audiobook lover, and I am actually here today with my pal, Khristine Hvam.
Hello, hello.
Khristine is an audiobook narrator, producer, and director. And she actually helped me with a recent project that we'll get into in a little bit. But welcome, Khristine. Thank you for doing this with me.
Well, thanks for the invite. This is a lot of fun. Thanks to Find a Way. So, in all these things, I think people are really always interested in an author's background. Like, what made you decide to write? Of all things, it's such, when I think to sit down and put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard, I get anxiety just thinking about it. So tell me about you and your background and how you got into writing. I'm super curious.
Well, I am, as you know, because we have another thing in common, we're both Jersey girls. So I am a Jersey girl at heart. I live in the Chicago area now, but I've always had a love of storytelling. My dad was a tremendous storyteller. He wasn't a writer, but he would sit at the kitchen table with me and just tell me these quirky stories that half the time they were true and half the time they were completely made up. And he would not really even tell me, I never knew they were made up until he would say something completely ridiculous. And there was one story he told me about. He fought in the Korean War, and he was telling me the story about being on a ship and this terrible storm at sea. And he was getting so into the detail. And I can remember just sitting there mesmerized by the level of detail. And, he wasn't some trained actor. He was a high school graduate. He was a boxer in his olden day, so he just had a way with story. And he's going through this story and he has me completely mesmerized by it. And then he says, and then a whale jumped on deck and I punched him in the nose. And I sat there I was like, what are you talking about, a whale? And then he just burst out laughing. So I never knew with him where he was going, if it was even true. And there were times he would tell a story and I would say to him, is that true? Or are you lying? And he'd say, no, I made it up. So I think my love of storytelling just comes from, my entire life, hearing these wacky stories from him. And I just used to dream up different stories and,
Well, how has that affected your writing process? So, having such a history with storytelling and it's sort of being passed down, it sounds, from generation to generation in your family. How do you use that in your process, and what's your writing process?
Well, I'm a plotter, I think, at heart. I like to I'm not a super strict plotter, though. I like to have my beginning, my middle, and my ending. It's sort of a roadmap for me, so I like to kind of know where I'm going. That being said, and just yesterday, I am in the last quarter, maybe writing the last 6 scenes of my current book, and the story just took a hard left on me. So what I was thinking the ending was going to be, I had a moment. And I just rolled with it. And it, so that kind of happens. But yes, I do a ton of character development before I start. I like to know I have actually a character interview that I do. I interview all my characters before I start. And it's maybe about 20 questions where I really try to get into what makes them tick. What are they afraid of? What are the things that they can't live without? And then throughout the course of the book, I use all of that against them.
like an evil genius.
Exactly.
When an idea derails like that, and all of a sudden you want to take it in a new direction, is it, you were so easy about, oh, well, we're just going to change course and go this way. Is it from years of experience of writing that you've got that confidence to just change direction? Or do you think that's just part of who you are as a storyteller? You just kind of go with the flow and let the story take you.
I don't know if it's years of confidence, because I think when you're a creative, and you know this from what you do, you constantly have a crisis of self-confidence.
Yeah.
This is working. This is, oh my God, I used to be so good at this. What happened? So I think there's always that little piece inside that makes you think, I can't do this. And then somehow the book gets written and you go, oh, I did that, So I think that's just part of wanting to make our readers or our listeners happy. That's my thing is, will this make my reader happy? I mean, I've had books where I've gotten halfway through it and scrapped the whole thing, because if I didn't like it, my reader isn't going to like it. So,
right.
I have to love the story myself. But yeah, I think I've learned to follow my instincts a little bit, where I'm going along, and like yesterday I got this idea and I did I stopped literally and I did 2 hours of research to make sure I called some people that I knew could help me, like just to make sure the direction I was going would work. And then I just rolled with it. So yeah, I don't willy-nilly just go there. I do try to back it up a little bit to make sure, okay, is this feasible?
Right. Yeah. So what do you do outside of writing? Because it sounds to me, if I'm hearing correctly, that so much of your life is about storytelling. So much of your day is spent in service of the story that you're writing, in service of the readers that are reading. So do you have other creative outlets or physical outlets or spiritual outlets that you do that help, round out the creative process?
Yes, I am huge on getting fresh air when I'm, if there's something about being out in nature when I'm looking out my window as I'm saying this. If I'm stuck, there's something about getting my little Elliot, my 85-pound shepherd mix. I put him on a leash and we get out and go for some air and take a walk. Or in the summer, I love to paddleboard.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I grew up on the Jersey Shore, so I have a deep love of the ocean and the beach, and there's something about salt air that really it's my happy place. Unfortunately, I live in Chicago, where
I was going to say
we have a giant lake, but it's a freshwater lake, so I don't even get the salt air. But I live right near a river, so I'll get my kayak out or my paddleboard and I'll just get out. There's something about water for me that just gets all the creative juices flowing. And then, with COVID, I actually learned how to refinish furniture. So
get out of town.
Yeah, because I needed an outlet. I was terrified to go outside, so I needed an outlet, and I have a girlfriend who actually I used her dogs in my Lucy Rizzo series. She loves to refinish furniture, and she taught me how to refinish furniture. So I'm redoing my bedroom set as we speak.
You don't stop. You're just like a powerhouse over there.
I'm a constant learner, I think. And that I just love to learn new things. And I may be good at some of them. I don't know if I'm going to be good at refinishing furniture. I'm okay at it. I have a couple of pieces around the house that I've done that, I had one last week that I threw out because I just completely botched it. So, but yeah. And that helps with the creative part of me. As I'm doing things.
Yeah, that sort of where you can just be calm and do an activity over and over again, like the rowing and the kayak or the sanding in the finishing. You're just sort of almost in a meditative state and you can just let all the creativity flow. That's so smart. That's so smart. I could probably use that in my own creative process too. Which brings me to my next question, which is audio, because
Audio.
that's my jam, is all about the audio version of your fabulous story. So I know you had mentioned earlier that we worked together and you had written a book, Into the Fire, that you were incredibly passionate about. And you came to me looking for a narrator, and you told me that you wanted to be the narrator for this particular book. Can you tell me what was so important to you that you read the audio? What did you learn in the process of putting that audiobook together with me, in the process of me coaching you through it and then directing you through it? How was audio, because you love to learn, how is the process and the learning of audiobooks different and similar to writing? And what did you love about it? And what did you hate about it?
I have some independently published books, as you know. So I had hired audiobook narrators before to do different projects for me. This particular book, as you know, but I'll tell all the listeners, was, you know, a lot of authors talk about the book of their heart, or, you know, their baby, whatever. This book in particular had a very personal meaning to me. My cousin Mary Jo, who is listed as my co-author on the book, she was, growing up, she was my person. She was 20 years older than I was, and she was, if I needed help, if I needed advice, she was the one I went to. She was fiercely independent at a time when women, you know, that wasn't really quite what women were supposed to be. You know, she took care of herself. She never got married because, you know, the right man never came along for her. So she said, you know what, I'm good. She was a school teacher. She just was tremendous. Well, she passed away about 5 years ago from pancreatic cancer. And during her last days, I was sitting with her. We were just chatting. She was having all these talks with everybody. So she calls me in for her talk with me, and she tells me how she always wanted to be a writer. And she was an English teacher, and, you know, for years she had helped me with my own writing. And I was just gobsmacked. So she sent me to her bedside table, and she said, there's a blue folder in there. It was a Pendaflex folder that I still have. I can see it. It's right in my credenza, that had all notes on a story she'd been working on. And I couldn't believe the research it had. I mean, if you remember back, I'm dating myself, but microfiche files.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Of, you know, newspaper articles and magazines and all, you know, handwritten notes that she'd gone to the library and made photocopies from books about this. It was a hotel fire in Puerto Rico. At the time, it was the largest hotel fire. Over 100 people died. So it was quite a tragedy. And for whatever reason, she was fascinated with this fire. So what I told her was that she wanted to do a retrospective. And I said, I don't know anything about doing a retrospective, but I could use your notes and do a fiction story. And she said, that would be great. So I was just totally overwhelmed, because what a gift to give someone, you know. And I sat, it took me literally the 5 years to write that book. It was 5 years last July that she passed. And the book sat because I had other commitments. I had other contracts that, you know, I had books that needed to be written. And I emotionally was not ready to do that book yet. So I had a break in my schedule, and I thought, this is it. This is Mary Jo from beyond telling me, like, it's time. I've got to get over my fear and my anxiety, because her name was going on it. So talk about a crisis of self-confidence. I was like, what if I blow this? So I pulled it out and I started writing, and I decided I wanted to do an audio version. And my husband one day said, well, this is so important to you. Why hire a narrator? Why don't you do it? So I said to him, what do I know about being an audiobook narrator? I I mean, I know authors of nonfiction do it all the time, but nonfiction and fiction are two totally different beasts. And then the more I thought about it, I wondered, like, could I do it? And again, I'm a lifelong learner, and I thought, well, what if I hired a voice coach or a narrating coach to help me? Which is how I found Khristine Hvam.
And that's how we met.
So yes, I loved the whole process. I think what I found was it is way harder than people would imagine.
Yeah.
Especially because this book has a lot of characters. So, the voice intonations and, when you have 3 men in a room, how you make them all sound different. And, so yeah, it's exhausting work, but it's so much fun.
It is a lot of fun. I agree. You get to be all the players in the play.
Yes.
Yeah.
We got to work in that. Well, we were working remotely, but when we went into the studio.
Oh, that's a good question, because as a writer, I'm assuming, because I don't do it, it's very solitary work, right? You're alone a lot. But in the audiobook process, we're working together, you and you're in the studio with an engineer. It's a much more collaborative space, and you have to be in that space with all these people watching, vulnerable and trusting, and it can be really intimidating, and as the person on the other side of the glass with you, I was so incredibly blown away by how willing you were to take risk and be vulnerable and follow direction and change direction. And, as far as students go, you are right there at the top of the list with incredible students. I mean, you really took everything to heart and made it work for you and came out with what I think is a pretty successful audiobook.
Yeah, well, thank you. It was something that, and it goes back to that trust factor. You and I kind of hit it off right from the get-go. We had a lot in common. We saw the process in a similar way. We were both just talking about this. We're both doers, so we had a plan, and this is how it was. And you're the expert on this. You have won awards, so you know what you're doing. And that's where the trust factor comes in. And I think having that trust let me sort of just become the characters, just Rose, because Rose is so Ray, and it was just a lot of fun learning how to become those characters. And as the author, it helps because I know these characters so well. I know what they sound like in my head. So it was just a matter of conveying that to the listener.
Well, I think you did a bang up job, sister.
Oh, thank you.
It was such a point of pride to work together with you. Thanks for the opportunity.
Well, thank you for, being such a phenomenal director. And that's what was fun, is we took it from the coaching to the directing, and just having, for all the listeners out there, what would happen is I would go into the studio every day, and Khristine is out east and I'm in the Midwest. So she found a studio near my home. And I showed up for work one morning, and, there was a terrific engineer in Jeremy who was young enough to be both of our sons.
Yeah, for sure.
And the whole thing was just amazing because the studio was in this 100-year-old building that was just so cool. And the first day I walked in and I opened the door, and I got hit with this smell of marijuana, like, whoa! And I immediately texted Khristine, because again, the creative in me, there was a couch in there and a couple of chairs, and all the instruments hanging on the walls. I could just envision musicians sitting around writing songs, smoking weed,
Yeah.
And I texted Khristine, I said, oh my gosh, this whole place smells like weed.
I don't even remember what I said to you, but I can imagine it, being like, oh no, my client is going to freak out.
Oh my gosh. I just thought it was like totally using this in a book one day.
Yeah.
It was.
Well, that's the beautiful thing about you, right? Is that your creative process is really using the things in your life around you to create story, So of course that's what you would think.
Yeah, no, but it was great fun, and they took great care of us, and and it's interesting because I got to see the technical sides of it too, because when we'd be rolling along, we'd be in the middle of a scene and I'm rolling along and I'm locked into my character, and then we get a pop, which
right.
Maybe you can explain what a pop is, because I still don't get it.
So, during any recording session, there's going to be extraneous noise, and sometimes there's internal electronic noise. And so we had some trouble with electronic noise during our session. So yeah, you would be in the middle of an emotive scene and we'd have to stop for a noise. And I think that's the biggest hurdle in the studio space as a narrator or as any kind of performer, is you're in this emotive space and you've just got to be able to hit pause and stay in that moment and just pick it right back up and not let it deter you. And for someone so new to the experience, I can only imagine how frustrating it is, because I'm used to it. I've been doing it for over a decade and I still get frustrated and annoyed and sometimes have to take a break. And so having been so new to the experience, you handled it like a pro, for sure.
It was great fun. I would love to do it again one day, but it was really just a tremendous life experience. And to be able to do it with that particular project was amazing. And
it really was.
Jeremy in the studio, like everybody around me with this project, that's when you think, oh my gosh, the universe was at work, because everybody around me was phenomenal. So
yeah, it really came together.
I'm so proud of that project. So yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff, Khristine Hvam.
Right back at you, sis.
And I should actually tell the listeners, you helped me with the Lucy Rizzo series as well, my Lucy Rizzo mystery series.
That's right.
That kind of came out of that's what's so awesome about this relationship, is after, Khristine helped me with the voice coaching, and we decided, okay, I would narrate Into the Fire. I hired her production company to help me bring my Lucy Rizzo mystery series, which is kind of a fun, quirky dog walker mystery series. I hired Khristine's company to produce that for me. And
that's right.
Khristine actually did not narrate it, but Kelsey Navarro narrated it.
She did a wonderful job.
And she did. She really brought Lucy to life. So that was fun. Yeah.
That was fun for me too.
Yeah.
For sure.
It was good stuff.
It's always fun to put on different hats and work in different aspects of the career space, get out of the booth a little, do something different. It's just fun for me.
It's sort of like a cleansing of the palate almost.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about the genre hopping, and even working on the audiobook. It was just a different creative outlet that kind of just let me clear my mind. And so it's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on all your success.
Well,
I'm really happy for you.
Well, thank you. All right. So we will wrap this up. Thank you all for hanging out with my pal Khristine and I hope you have an awesome rest of your day.